Hey K-popers, and welcome back to Hallyu. This week's deep dive is all about CLC, a spectacular girl group whose story will leave you wondering what could have been. We'll start by looking at some of the really cool and potentially cringy things CLC did during their pre-debut era, and then we'll see how their early music was a perfect embodiment of the best of third-gen girl groups. Next, we'll talk about how CLC proved they really could do it all with several huge shifts in image, and we'll see how their fate took a turn for the worse in 2020. And finally, we'll spend some time bashing Cube, talking about why CLC never had a chance to become the superstars they deserve to be. Before we get started, I want to quickly thank Hallyu's honorary producers. If you want to show off your bias group here, share your pics in weekly videos, and join a vibrant Discord community with watch parties, custom emoji, and more, all you need to do is support Hallyu on Patreon. Now, despite debuting in 2015, CLC's story begins back in 2014 when there were just 5 members as trainees under Cube Entertainment. The original 5 pre-debut members, Sunghee, Yoojin, Sungyeon, Sorn, and Yin, had their first public appearance in an MV for labelmate Gina. The girls were backup dancers for the song Gina's Secret, both in the video and for live performances. They also were models for the Smart Uniform brand, which I'm sure many of you know spawned the cringe-inducing CF Family, which featured BTS and G-Friend. Well, CLC were also in a lesser-known version of that song, starring alongside GOT7 and B1A4, and yes, I'm about to subject you to a clip from that video. Now, whether you like that CF or not, there's still part of CLC's pre-debut left to talk about that I'm sure you will like, because the girls also held a web reality show called CLC's Love Chemistry. And on this show, much like last week's deep dive subject Ace, CLC actually busked on the streets to raise money for children with disabilities. If you've seen that Ace deep dive, you know how performing like that in pre-debut really gives you a ton of skills as an idol that you don't get elsewhere, and this was definitely a positive for CLC as well. And it wasn't the only time that CLC were charitable. In fact, this girl group was very consistent in supporting worthy causes. Profits from their B-track Sharala were donated to children with developmental disabilities, and their 3rd anniversary concert was free with the opportunity to donate to the Pediatric Diabetes Association. But before I get too far ahead of myself, let's return back to 2015, because it's time for this girl group to debut. On March 19th, 2015, those 5 girls debuted as CLC, short for Crystal Clear, with their debut EP First Love and its title track Pepe. If you're a newer fan of K-pop, this song is a great snapshot of what girl group comebacks were like in that 3rd generation. Lots of bright colors and retro dance vibes both visually and musically. And it was less than a month later that CLC released their next song, a digital single by the name 18 with more retro flair. Just a month after that, and the girls were back again with the EP Question and the song Like, which was absolutely fantastic. 2015 was one of the best years for K-pop, and CLC is an underrated reason for that in my view. This album is pure gold through and through, whether it's the perfect for summer bop Hey Yo or the adorably cute track Lucky. 6 years later, and Question still stands out in my personal collection as a fantastic album, so definitely go check it out if you're in need of some 3rd-gen girl group bops. Now, CLC's next album was called Refresh, and it was for good reason, because this comeback marked a new chapter for the girl group by adding 2 new members, Elki and Unbin. The title track for this song was High Heels, another funky retro bop bursting with pastel colors. But because of Unbin's participation on Produce 101, there was some awkward juggling done by Cube to not break any contracts with Mnet. Basically, Unbin was set to be a part of the original group roster of CLC, but because the debut was delayed, she didn't join and participated in Produce 101 instead. But since she made it all the way to the second to last elimination on the show, she couldn't promote with CLC for High Heels. So, Cube released a short version of the MV on February 29th that had Elki but not Unbin, then finally released the full version with all 7 members on March 21st. But from then on, CLC was officially a 7-member group with Elki and Unbin finally committed to the group. And wow, were they busy from that point on. Over the next 4 months, they would make their Japanese debut, drop their 4th EP and its title track No Oh, and release their 2nd Japanese album, which actually broke into the top 10 on Oricon charting. But believe it or not, it was already time for CLC's next chapter. That's because CLC was about to reinvent themselves in a big way. In January of 2017, the girl group dropped the EP Crystal with the title track Hobgoblin. Up until this point, CLC's discography had been full of cute, bubbly, and fun songs that were catchy and typical for a rookie girl group at that time. But Hobgoblin was very not cute. It went off the deep end with a strong hip-hop concept and EDM and trap influences, as well as much more aggressive choreography. For me, this is when CLC really proved that they deserve major success in K-pop. There aren't many girl groups who can completely pivot their image and concept and actually pull it off as well as CLC did. And this crisp execution was rewarded with a huge breakout onto the international scene. The album Crystal debuted at number 6 on Billboard's World Albums chart, with Hobgoblin hitting number 4 in the corresponding World Digital Song chart. If you weren't convinced of CLC's versatility and ability to pull off multiple concepts, then there's the group's very next album, Freeze 'Em. This album was inspired by first-generation girl groups like Finkel and SES, and you can instantly tell by listening to the lead single, Where Are You? CLC once again excelled, this time in a soft R&B infused ballad that was completely different than their previous two comebacks, a hardcore hip-hop song and a bubbly cute bop. And stop me if you've heard this before, their next concept was another stark departure from that with this EP featuring the song Black Dress. Again, CLC went with a vastly different concept in bold and elegant beauty, and they absolutely nailed it. Though, to be fair, in my books, it's hard for a girl group to miss when they look this good in suits. After a beautiful solo debut from Elkie with the song I Dream, CLC were back again in late January of 2019 with a new song called No. At this point, it had been almost 4 years since CLC's debut, and despite their fantastic discography and varied concepts, they had never won a single music show. But that all changed on the February 12th, 2019 episode of the show, where CLC were finally rewarded for their hard work with their first ever music show win for the song.
CLC 축하드립니다.
Guys, thank you so much for supporting CLC. We promise to work harder and really thank you so much for today. 감사합니다. 더 열심히 할게요.
The girls rounded out 2019 with the captivating comeback Me, as well as the ultra catchy digital single Devil. Both of these songs kept CLC near the top of the World Digital Songs chart, with Me and Devil debuting at number 5 and number 7 respectively months after their release in March of 2020. In fact, during its debut week on that chart, Me was only outsold by BTS's Black Swan. Unfortunately, the year 2020 also ushered in what is most likely to be CLC's final chapter as a girl group. By August 2020, it had been almost a year since CLC's last single, and finally Cube announced that CLC would be getting a comeback. This was accompanied by a rebranding, with CLC's original logo being replaced by a simpler one with an upside down 7 as the L in their name for the 7 members. Unfortunately, soon after that comeback helicopter, which by the way was absolutely fantastic, CLC would lose one of those 7 members. That's because on Christmas Day 2020, the dam burst for CLC. Elkie sent a legal notice to Cube Entertainment requesting for her contract to be terminated due to non-payment for her acting activities. Most damning of all though is Elkie's allegation that Cube had quote, stopped developmental support for CLC, and that as a group, CLC was basically unsupported by the label anymore. 6 weeks later, Cube confirmed that Elkie had officially left the group and terminated her contract with the label. Now that being said, Soren has had her own solo debut this year, which as many of you know I ranked as my favorite song of 2021 so far this summer. Yujin also participated in Girls Planet 999 and ranked 3rd overall, meaning she's now a member of Kepler. In an interview this summer, Yujin reaffirmed what Elkie said back in December of 2020 by saying that Cube told her quote, CLC will no longer be working as a team. This certainly appears to be true since everything after Helicopter has been solo activities for the various members. As of right now, CLC is officially still together, but unfortunately it's extremely unlikely we'll ever see a group come back ever again. So why did such a versatile group that proved they could execute on any concept thrown at them get dungeoned and never become superstars? Well, I don't think I'm upsetting anyone or surprising anyone by saying this, but the majority of that fault lies with their label Cube Entertainment. Some people will point to CLC's stagnant sales and say that they had opportunities to succeed, but I actually think that's missing a big part of the story. Yes, CLC's album sales never took off, but they were charting incredibly well internationally. Hobgoblin, Black Dress, No, Me, Devil, and Helicopter all charted between 4th and 7th on the US World Singles Chart. In my view, CLC were very successful, but it wasn't in the metric that Cube was probably focusing on, and I think if Cube had invested more in building CLC's global appeal and fandom through tours or showcases outside Korea and Japan, they could have reached a whole other level of success. But I think there was also something else going on too, and frankly it's something that seems to be becoming a trend in the industry overall that I'm a little bit concerned about. And that is the idea of planned obsolescence. To me, it feels like labels like Cube are almost planning for their groups to finish out the last few months or even year of their contract in the dungeon. It feels like they're intentionally sunsetting their groups as they get close to contract expiration to focus on their newer rookie groups. This absolutely happened to CLC as Cube debuted G-Idol in mid-2018 and focused on them almost exclusively, and honestly it feels like it's happening again with G-Idol as they focus on solo activities right now while Lightsum continues the rookie era. And it's not just Cube either. In my view, this also happened to Lovelyz, who are now officially not renewing with Woollim and who didn't have a release in their final year as Rocket Punch became the focus. Now, to be clear, I am no industry insider. I'm just speculating what I think the causes are for CLC never reaching their full potential as a group. As a girl group, they proved they could adapt and excel at any concept like very few other girl groups could, and their discography really does have something for everyone, whether that be their adorable early releases, the hard-hitting Hobgoblin, the spectacular Black Dress, or any other song they released, frankly. No matter how the rest of CLC's time as a group unfolds, they should be proud of what they accomplished and the body of work that they built. Because when you take away all the politics and the mismanagement and the problems with Cube, what you're left with is 7 extremely talented girls who gave us all some incredible music to enjoy. And that's the story of CLC. What's most impressive to you about them as artists, and do you think that there's other things Cube did wrong when it comes to how they managed this girl group? As always, thanks so much for watching this deep dive, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss all the great K-pop content coming your way right here at Hallyu. This has been deep dive number 78, CLC.